Hello. Folks, I'm sorry I was late, but I have been walking since 1 o'clock to be able to get here. And as I was entering the park 10 minutes ago, there were as many people still to come into the park as had already arrived, which says this is by far the biggest demonstration in support of Scottish independence that we have seen since 2014. And our movement is on the march. And I am here today as a member of the British Parliament to say that on behalf of my colleagues down in the Palace of Westminster, we bring you our solidarity and our support for this rally, and we will be with you as the march forward to the next referendum and getting independence for our country. Friends, before the summer broke up in the Palace of Westminster, the SNP introduced a debate in the Chamber on the claim of right for Scotland. The notion that the people who live in this country should have the sovereign right to determine their own method of government. And I tell you, something really strange happened, which is it was not put to a vote in the House of Commons because no one was prepared to stand up and argue against it. Even the Conservative Party, would you believe, said that it believed that the people who live in this country should have the right to determine their own future. And they claimed that that is what happened on the 18th of September 2014. And they claimed that the people of Scotland then exercised their sovereign right to stay in the United Kingdom. Well, my message to the Conservative Party is that the sovereign will of the Scottish people doesn't exist just for one day in history. It exists for all time. And in a democratic society, people have the right to change their mind. And it is therefore right and proper that we revisit the question of independence for our country. And that is partly because what happened in 2014 did not solve anything. But it's also because the people who made the case for the Union in 2014 lied through their teeth and built their prospectus on false ground. And we now face a situation of a dramatic change in circumstances in the world and in Britain, which will have profound effects on the future of our country. And that is why we need to revisit the question, because things have changed. And the thing that has changed it most of all is the Brexit position of the United Kingdom and trying to turn its back on the European Union. And in this country, that means not only that they will deny us our European passports, it also means that instead of being part of the European Union, they will force us to be part of Fortress Britain, an island free market economy designed to drive down wages and drive up profits, led by the chief upper-class buffoon Boris Johnson and the monarchical mutineer Jacob Rees-Mogg. They want to turn Britain into that sort of society, which is why so many more of our own citizens now, including those who did not vote yes in 2014, are now open to the question once again. They are now considering whether in those circumstances it is better that the people of this country take back control for themselves and determine their own future free from interference by others. And that is why, as we now approach the Brexit endgame, and it will become clear what a catastrophe the British government is determined to force upon us. That is why we must now plant in the sand our firm alternative of Scottish independence and begin to raise our game in explaining what that means to the people of this country and to their families, and that it has a better future than any conceivable future under the British state led by the Conservatives, or indeed led by the Conservatives light. That is why we must up the ante, move up a gear. And I want to mention two things in that campaign ahead that we will hear a lot of from our opposition. One is they will talk about solidarity. You have often heard, have you not, that the working people of Glasgow have more in common with the working people of Liverpool or Manchester than they do with the bosses and the landowners of their own country. Well, that is such a glib and obvious statement that we all know that to be true. But so do they also have more in common with the working class of Barcelona, of Marseille, of Cape Town, of Detroit, and everywhere else in the world. And the truth is that those who prosecute that argument are trying to stop people in Scotland organising in order that ordinary working people will better themselves. Because let's be clear, when we talk about a Scottish national interest, we don't mean everybody in Scotland. We don't mean the lairds and the millionaires who have nothing to profit from Scotland taking control of its own future. Indeed, who are the very ones who are funding Scotland in union and our opponents to try and make sure that it doesn't happen. But we do talk about the ordinary people of Scotland improving their lot and having the ability to democratically organise and control their country. Which is why when we talk about an independent Scotland, we don't mean a Scotland like it is now. We mean taking the power to build a new Scotland based on democratic participation, social justice, and economic fairness. One that will benefit all of the people. And the other thing that you will hear said against us is that we are separatists, that nobody wants separation. As if we were trying to dig a trench and float Scotland off into the North Sea to be isolated by itself. Well, I've got some bad news for the unionists. We're not going anywhere. We live in this part of this island, and we will continue to do so. The only difference in the future is that the people that live in this ancient country will once again take control of their own future and their own destiny. And I tell you that if we do that, then we will be a catalyst and an inspiration to ordinary people throughout the length and breadth of Britain and across the world who are also seeking to change the society and the political structures in which they live. They will take heart from that change and our ability to do it. And that is the demonstration of real solidarity across these islands and across this globe. My friends, let me just say this. The question is fast approaching. And my message, going back to what I said about the claim of right that they all parroted their support for in the House of Commons. Well, the claim of right means that it's not up to Ruth Davidson or Richard Leonard or indeed me to say when the next referendum will be. It's up to the people of this country and the representatives that they elect in their parliament to determine when that referendum will be. My friends, I salute you today in this fantastic manifestation of the desire of the people of this country for their self-government. We will be back in the very near future to do more of this, because now, as we go towards the turn of this year, we need to up our game. We can support, for example, the Scottish Independence Convention's fundraiser, which launches on the 15th of October, because we need to prepare now. We need to raise the funds. We need to employ the people, build the arguments, and go out and win a majority of our friends and neighbours to the position of supporting their own self-government. I know that we can do it, and people will look back in the day and say this was the start of the final decisive phase towards the independence of Scotland. Thank you.